Hello and a very warm welcome to Science Monitor, your weekly update on what's happening in the field of science, technology, research and innovation in and around the country. I'm Tina Jha. From the achievements of Team Avishkar Hyperloop from IIT Madras to the recently launched brain-based intelligent test for the Indian population, we have plenty in store for you on this edition of Science Monitor. But as always, first up, the top stories of the week. Team Avishkar Hyperloop is raising hopes for Hyperloop transportation in India. The team from IIT Madras is participating in the ongoing European Hyperloop Week with its improved Hyperloop prototype. Brain stress mapping will reveal how COVID-19 affects the mental status of patients. Manesar-based National Brain Research Centre proposes a scheme in collaboration with Medanta Hospital, Gurugram. Brain-based intelligence test launched to assess the cognitive abilities of the Indian population, prepared in collaboration with IIT Kanpur. This first-of-its-kind Indigenous test will be highly useful to educationists and clinicians. And we'll see how ARCI Hyderabad, an autonomous R&D center of the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, is developing cost-effective and efficient third-generation solar cells. And now the news in detail. After impressing everyone with its global performance at the SpaceX Hyperloop pod competition held in the year 2019, Team Avishkar Hyperloop from IIT Madras has once again made the country proud by qualifying for the European Hyperloop Week. The week-long conference cum competition, which is being organized in Valencia in Spain from the 19th to the 25th of July, is aiming to connect ideas surfacing around the globe on the advancement of Hyperloop transportation. Due to COVID-related travel restrictions, Team Avishkar Hyperloop is participating virtually in this event. Let's see how this team is working to push the Hyperloop transportation in India.
Hyperloop has become the buzzword within the last decade. Believed to be the fifth mode of transport, the Hyperloop is a high-speed train that travels in a near-vacuum tube. Because of the vacuum, the air resistance is reduced, which allows the capsule inside the tube to reach speeds of more than 1,000 km per hour. Across the world, people are working to make this faster and safer mode of transportation practical. Team Avishkar Hyperloop from the Centre for Innovation, Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, can be called a pioneer in this direction. Team Avishkar Hyperloop is working on an indigenous design and development of a self-propelled, completely autonomous Hyperloop pod in India. The team earlier became the debut finalist and the only Asian team to qualify for the finals of the SpaceX Hyperloop pod competition in 2019. The team is now participating at the European Hyperloop Week, which began in Spain on 19th of July. For this competition, this team of 40 students has developed an improved Hyperloop pod prototype despite the challenges presented by the pandemic. This version of the Hyperloop pod has been designed to suit Indian conditions. The pod can cover the distance between Chennai and Bangalore in 30 minutes.
We are a group of 40 students from IIT Madras who are passionate about the Hyperloop technology. Hyperloop is the next generation of ultra-high-speed transport in which metro-like pods travel in long vacuum tubes running between cities. A Hyperloop corridor between, let's say, Chennai and Bangalore could reduce the travel time between the two cities from 6 hours by car to just 30 minutes by Hyperloop.
The team is working on a detailed study of energy, costs and other business aspects for a Hyperloop corridor between Bangalore and Chennai to assess the economic feasibility of Hyperloop in India. For the latest third iteration of the design, most systems in the pod are based on entirely new and highly efficient technologies. For example, to reduce the wear and tear caused by friction braking, they have moved to a contactless braking mechanism. Before going into the competition, the students also successfully tested the prototype pod. The technology will help in taking the speed of the pod to up to 1000 km per hour. Apart from this, the team is also researching about environment-friendly measures to incorporate in this particular mode of transport.
The tube and other infrastructure can be utilized to generate solar energy, which can be converted into electricity to run the Hyperloop pods. This will make the Hyperloop an eco-friendly and sustainable mode of transport. We at Team Avishkar have been working on many innovative and novel technologies to implement in our latest pod, GURV. We have a contactless propulsion mechanism as well as a contactless braking mechanism.
The selection of Indian researchers' technology in an international competition is very important, as it raises hopes for a high-speed transportation system in India. This technology can be applied to a variety of sectors, including the defense, logistics and aerospace industry. Several companies have already introduced Hyperloop proposals on routes like Mumbai-Pune and Chandigarh-Amritsar. Team Avishkar Hyperloop at IIT Madras is leaving no stone unturned to minimize the cost of the infrastructure and to adapt the technology to the needs of the Indian subcontinent.
Manesar-based National Brain Research Centre will soon begin brain stress mapping in COVID-19 survivors. Researchers from NBRC, in collaboration with Medanta Hospital, Gurugram, will use non-invasive neuroimaging techniques to find the impact of the pandemic on the mental health of patients. This study will be useful in identifying the mechanism and implications of COVID-19 in the brain to devise an appropriate therapy for the same. More details in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic has adversely affected life on a global scale. During the ongoing pandemic, many studies have revealed that the effect of COVID-19 is not limited to the respiratory system alone, as this infection has also increased neurological and neuropsychiatric disorders. This shows that the virus is potent enough to affect the central nervous system. It is also worrying to know that the hospitals usually take care of only the symptoms related to the respiratory system, and other physical aspects of the disease as psychological disorders are not easily recognized. This can have long-term effects on cognitive functions even after complete recovery from COVID-19. Keeping this in view, the National Brain Research Centre at Manesar has proposed a scheme to monitor and map cognitive stress in COVID patients in association with Medanta Hospital. As part of this scheme, structural, spectroscopic and behavioral studies will be done in 3 different groups to identify the reason or factors of psychological illnesses caused by COVID-19.
We have a solid, concrete research proposal with a Medanta hospital with 3 cohort groups, where one group will be having no symptom, they never had a COVID. Second group will have a COVID, but they did not have a symptoms. Third group will be have a neurological and neuropsychiatric problem. So you have a sample size of 200, minimum 200 persons we scan at the National Brain Research and then monitor their brain, and they are saying the defense mechanism was affected. Because if many people can say, I have this problem, our job is to identify the reason and then take a proper action for this, so that men's cognitive health or mental health is protected after the COVID, when they have survived.
According to studies, during COVID, there is above normal production of reactive oxygen species in the brain and a huge depletion in antioxidants, which further contributes to pathogenesis of several neurological diseases. A decrease in antioxidant defense triggers symptoms like confusion, lack of self-confidence, and memory loss in patients who have recovered from COVID. This is especially true for people with low immunity and in elderly patients with nutritional deficiencies. Based on such studies, researchers are also stressing the continuation of nutritional supplements and exercise even after recovering from COVID-19 to strengthen antioxidant defense.
What is happening, this virus is doing, it is increasing the reactive oxidative species radicals in the brain. Already by normal process, already radicals are generated, they are being taken care by antioxidant defense systems, mainly glutathione, they actually do this one. These radicals, this virus is actually increasing tenfold. So there is a overall huge shortage of antioxidant in the brain. And that's what many people's hippocampus will be affected. It is a very critical stage to tell the person that a regular exercise and multivitamins has to be taken.
According to the researchers, their research papers related to the proposed longitudinal cohort studies have been accepted by reputed science journals, and the studies will begin shortly to provide a scientific database. NBRC has also developed an online database system for brain disorders and research in the country. This online database can be used by psychologists, medical scientists, and strategists around the world. The data obtained from the latest brain mapping study of COVID patients will also be made available globally.
And with that, time for a short break here on Science Monitor. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
As the British decided to move capital from Calcutta to New Delhi, the foundation of new imperial capital was laid on the hillock called Raisina Hill. Two great British architects and fast friends, Sir Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Baker, were given the task to carve the capital. Like all great cities of India, the New Delhi, which was to rival London and Paris, was designed on the flanks of the great residential palace of its first citizen, the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Identified as an ultimate symbol of a great structure, the first sign of the building's grandeur is its placement on a high gradient. Along the gradient, two secretariat buildings, now termed North and South Block, were built, which today houses the key ministries of the Government of India. Interestingly, the two secretariat buildings were originally drafted to be below the gradient, in order to have a more grandly view of the Rashtrapati Bhavan courtyard. But Baker had his way in getting them at the same level, the decision which turned close friends, Lutyens and Baker, into bitter colleagues.
Welcome back. You're watching Science Monitor. Moving a step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, an indigenous test of cognitive abilities called the Brain-Based Intelligence Test was launched recently. A team of top psychologists from different institutes, including IIT Kanpur and clinical practitioners, have worked hard to develop and standardize this test for the Indian population. In this report, let's see how this test will prove to be useful.
A variety of cognitive tests are now conducted all over the world to understand intellectual abilities and disabilities. In this direction, BBIT, the first indigenous brain-based intelligence test prepared by Indian researchers, was launched recently. A professor of Indian origin working at the University of Alberta, Professor J.P. Das, led top psychologists of the country, including Professor Braj Bhushan of IIT Kanpur, as they worked on developing this test over the last 3 years. And now this team has succeeded in developing a standardized test of cognitive abilities for the Indian population. It is being marketed by Hyderabad-based company BBIT India. With Indian norms, the test can be used to assess key intelligence or cognitive functions.
This is a unique test of its kind, the first of its kind in India, and even globally there are a handful of tests of this kind. You will find two kinds of broad categories here. The first is what we call as planning and executive functioning, and the other is what we call as information integration. So under these two broad abilities, there are a series of subtests where you can find out the level of intelligence of the given individual. The cognitive ability of any individual can be quantified using this.
The brain-based intelligence test is based on the theories and systems of brain mechanisms responsible for the cognitive processes that are localized in different brain areas. It comprises of two major parts: information integration and executive functions and planning. The major abilities assessed by BBIT include cognitive flexibility, inhibition control, working memory, fluency, planning and complex problem solving, configuration and successive processing. According to the team, the test is more effective and accurate than the traditional IQ tests. The BBIT, which is available with Indian norms for children and adults above the age of 5 years, can be used for predicting school achievement, career planning, assessing relative strengths and weaknesses in STEM or humanities.
If you want to use it for the academic purposes, the consulates, schools, educational institutions, they can use it. If clinicians want to use it for the identification of children and adolescents with certain kind of learning disabilities and other kind of intellectual impairments, they can use it.
BBIT can also be used for cognitive profiling of different people affected by learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, traumatic brain injury, epilepsy, dementia, old age, chronic poverty, or cultural disadvantage. Developed in collaboration with IIT Kanpur, this indigenous brain-based intelligence test can make a useful contribution to society.
India is moving rapidly towards alternative energy resources to meet its energy needs. The most important among these resources is solar energy. To promote its use, efforts are being made to make the technology of solar cells cost-effective, simpler, and also more efficient. And ARCI Hyderabad is playing a leading role in this direction. The institute is working towards developing new generation of solar cells to achieve the solar power generation target that has been set by the Government of India. Here's a report.
To meet the ever-increasing energy needs of the country, the Government of India is promoting renewable energy resources. Considering the Indian climate and India's location on the globe, solar energy is undoubtedly the most promising renewable resource in the country. The Government of India has also set a target of producing 100 gigabytes of solar power by the year 2022. International Advanced Research Center for Powder Metallurgy and New Materials, an autonomous R&D center of the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, is providing innovative solutions in this direction too. ARCI, which is entering the silver jubilee year of its establishment, is actively working to develop new generation Perovskite solar cells. These cells can help the country to achieve its solar energy targets with their higher efficiency and low cost. Solar cells are used to convert solar energy into electrical energy. At present, silicon solar cells are considered to be the best photovoltaics, but the panels made of these cells are rigid, heavy, and take up more space, which also limits their application. In addition, manufacturing these cells requires energy-intensive and expensive multi-step processes. On the other hand, new generation Perovskite solar cells or PSCs address these drawbacks of silicon solar cells without compromising on efficiency. These PSCs are lightweight, flexible and do not require energy-intensive processes, and a PSC costs only 1/3 of a silicon solar cell. Their flexibility makes them fit for integrated photovoltaics. Perovskite materials possess intrinsic properties like broad absorption spectrum, fast charge separation, and long transport distance of electrons and holes, among others, which makes them an attractive material for a solar cell. Moreover, they can be manufactured using simple solution processes. The working principle of Perovskite solar cells is similar to that of tree leaves. Just as the chlorophyll pigments of leaves convert sunlight into glucose, so Perovskite in PSCs absorbs light and produces energy. A PSC is composed of many thin layers. First, a transparent conducive oxide-like fluorine-doped tin oxide or FTO is coated on a substrate to prepare the anode. Then the substrate is cut as per the required dimension. The substrate is then etched to ensure contact separation using zinc metal dust and HCl. The FTO side opposite to the etched side is masked using a tape. Electron transport layer is then spin-coated on the FTO. This acts as a scaffold to grow Perovskite layer and extracts electrons from the Perovskite layer. Then Perovskite precursor solution having lead iodide and methyl ammonium iodide is used for spin coating on electron transport layer. Then it is heated at 100-degree temperature to form a layer of Perovskite. Then hole transporting layer is deposited by spin coating on top of the Perovskite layer. This layer helps to collect holes generated in the Perovskite layer. The electrodes are masked to deposit the gold electrode, which acts as a cathode. These cells can be used for converting the solar energy efficiently into electrical energy. ARCI is also developing different processes and technologies to make high-performance PSCs. Such efforts by this eminent R&D center will certainly make India self-reliant in the energy sector.
Time for another quick breather on the program. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Among various historical markets in Delhi, Chhatta Chowk at the Red Fort is a one of its kind. This vaulted arcade, housing a string of double-storied shops, was specially built for, of and by the royals. Built by Shah Jahan, this market was inspired by the idea of a covered bazaar in Peshawar, a common design in West Asia. It was an innovation of sorts in India. Shah Jahan had instructed Mukarramat Khan, who was supervising the construction of the Red Fort, to build a similar covered market inside the fort. It was also a unique example of Mughal architecture with beautiful arches and painted ceilings. The bazaar has been popular through many names such as Bazaar-e-Musaqqaf or Meena Bazaar. It's divided into 32 sections on each side and was a premier hub for trade of silk, velvet, precious stones, silver and gold, among other things. This 300-year-old market is still functioning just as one enters the fort after crossing Lahori Gate.
Welcome back once again. You're watching Science Monitor. Let's now take a look at some other developments that have made news in the field of science and technology in our special segment, Science Express.
According to the latest study published in the journal Science Advances, only 1.5 to 7% of the modern human genome is unique to our species. The researchers from the University of California used a genetic analysis technique called ancestral recombination graph to arrive at this conclusion. The researchers used publicly available data of modern human, Neanderthal and Denisovan genomes and then sequenced these genomes themselves. Subsequently, ancestral recombination graph was used to sketch out a genetic tree encompassing the three species. The researchers found that only 1.5 to 7% of the modern human genome has not been transferred to us by our ancestors. This shows that we have not changed much from our ancestors at the molecular level. The researchers also found that in the last 6 lakh years, our genetic adaptations were mainly concerned with the development and functions of the brain, and perhaps this is what makes us unique. On 20th July, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos traveled to outer space aboard his own company's spacecraft, that is, the New Shepard of Blue Origin. It was the world's first unpiloted suborbital flight. Bezos was accompanied by his brother, Mark Bezos, an 18-year-old student from the Netherlands, Oliver Damon, and an 82-year-old aviation pioneer from Texas, Wally Funk. With this flight, Oliver Damon became the youngest and Wally Funk became the oldest person to ever fly into space. New Shepard's rocket and capsule was launched vertically into the suborbital space. The capsule reached an altitude of 66.5 miles before returning to Earth in a journey that lasted 10 minutes and 18 seconds. The rocket returned to the launch pad and the capsule made a smooth landing in the West Texas desert with the assistance of parachutes. It should also be noted that Kalyan-based engineer Sanjal Gawande, working at the Blue Origin, has also contributed to the New Shepard rocket system. New Delhi-based Army Hospital Research and Referral has introduced a new way of treating eye cancer. A team of ophthalmologists and ocular oncologists from the hospital successfully performed plaque brachytherapy on the eye of a 4-year-old child. Due to cancer, this child had already lost his left eye and was on the verge of losing his right one. The surgery was performed by the medical team using a localized radiation treatment procedure. In this, an indigenous ruthenium-106 plaque obtained from Bhabha Atomic Research Center was inserted into the eye. The plaque was used to perform minimally invasive surgery without damaging the surrounding tissue. Army Hospital has become the first armed forces hospital to successfully perform this procedure. Researchers at Chibrolu Engineering College, Guntur, Andhra Pradesh, have developed an automated system for collection of toilet waste from running trains and its subsequent processing. This technology can become a cost-effective alternative to bio-toilets. Indian Railways has increasingly started using bio-toilets on railways to reduce the harm and pollution caused by human waste. These toilets use anaerobic bacteria to convert human waste into gas, but these bacteria cannot decompose materials such as plastic or cloth thrown into toilets. The new system, developed under the Make in India initiative with the support from Advanced Manufacturing Technologies program of the Department of Science and Technology, has also overcome this problem using 3 simple steps in which non-degradable waste is automatically separated from human waste. This technology can give railways an alternative 7 times cheaper than the existing bio-toilets.
So that's it from us on this edition of Science Monitor. You can send us your feedback and suggestions through email. Our email ID is news@vigyanprasar.gov.in. Besides, you can also write to us. Our address is Vigyan Prasar, 5th floor, Prithvi Bhavan, Lodi Road, New Delhi, 111003. So we'll take your leave now. See you again, same time next week. Until then, take care of yourselves, your families, stay safe, and also continue to think scientifically.